One of the only places where misstatements and hypocrisy are exposed on a daily basis, outside of some great blogs and this program, of course, is on the campaign trail. When a candidate blows it or just gets it wrong, they can pay a stiff price. Tonight we take a look at the biggest political misstatements from the 2008 campaign trail thus far. The occasions when a candidate just made an outright mistake, or maybe worse. We're going to go through our top 5 doozies. Joining us now, Rachel Maddow, host of the Rachel Maddow Show on Air America, and Craig Crawford of Congressional Quarterly's CQPolitics.com. Okay, first up, Rudy and his rescue efforts. He's been campaigning as the 9/11 candidate, but this comment from August about how much time he actually spent down at Ground Zero is our first of 5 campaign false facts.
I was at Ground Zero as often, if not more than most of the workers. I was there working with them. I was there guiding things. I was there bringing people there. But I was exposed to exactly the same things they were exposed to. So, in that sense, I'm one of them.
You know, Craig, we haven't heard about that statement in a while, and I'm kind of surprised. And that's a big deal, comparing yourself in terms of the amount of time you spent down at Ground Zero to the workers who were there.
You know, Rudy's almost like that subliminal man on Saturday Night Live who, under his breath, is always saying 9/11, 9/11, 9/11. He's right up there with that great serial exaggerator Al Gore claiming to have created the Internet when it comes to 9/11. And this story was important, very important, really, because I think it was one of the first that really got us down that road of beginning to question many of his claims about what he had done in 9/11.
And we should say he apologized for that one. Next up, back on November 6th, it was supposed to be a softball question, but for the Clinton camp, a simple question on global warming turned into a major political storm.
As a young person, I'm worried about the long-term effects of global warming. How does your plan combat climate change?
Well, you should be worried, and you know, I find as I travel around Iowa that it's usually young.
All right, there's the wink. It wasn't the crime of planting a question that got the Clinton campaign into real trouble. It was the cover-up when they initially denied the planting allegation, saying it wasn't the practice of the campaign, that it didn't occur to the best of their knowledge. It seems that this campaign, Rachel, has a lot of issues with what their so-called supporters have been saying and what their operatives and campaign staffers have been doing and saying.
Yeah, well, the reason that this one resonated is because people worry that Hillary Clinton possibly needs to control everything around her. And there's this great fear that she's a controlling candidate and a controlling person, and that's one of the things people use against her. So that's why it resonated. To me, I look at that, and it just reminds me of the FEMA press conference where the director's saying, gosh, that's a great question, to his PR person who is posing as a reporter. Right. I wish I would have thought of that. Oh, I did.
Then there was John Edwards making promises to voters that seemed more like a high school political stunt.
When I'm president, I'm going to say to members of Congress and members of my administration, including my cabinet, I'm glad that you have health care coverage and your family has health care coverage. But if you don't pass universal health care by July of 2009, in 6 months, I'm going to use my power as president to take your health care away from you.
The problem, Craig, is that the president doesn't have that power, right?
Yeah, he's going to use the power he doesn't have to do that, which would create a whole new controversy about the use of presidential power. We've had enough of that in this administration. You know, the problem here, as Rachel pointed out about Hillary's controlling and how that episode underscored that, when these events underscore something that we're already talking about with these candidates, and in Edwards' case, he does get a rap for being phony, for sometimes even being a demagogue on some issues, and that is just a phony promise.
Then there's Mike Huckabee, the long-shot candidate turned front-runner, getting stung by an infamous Pearl Lee case coming back to haunt him. Huckabee's account of his role in the release from a prison of a convicted rapist is definitely at odds with what members of the parole board said on this program. Once released, that rapist went on to murder 2 other women.
I went there, even though there are some tabloid reports that try to make it that I did, I went there to get acquainted with them because I hadn't appointed any of them.
You never mentioned Wayne Dumont?
No, they brought it up to me.
Dr. Chastain, first let me ask you, you've been listening to what Mike Huckabee has been saying about this. Is he telling the truth?
There's no question that the governor brought up the issue of releasing Wayne Dumont.
So let's be clear, Dr. Chastain. I mean, you're making it pretty clear that he was advocating for early release.
There's no question that anybody at that meeting would believe that.
All right, Rachel, so this one, it really seems like Huckabee has gotten caught on this one. I mean, regardless of what he did to get him released, the facts of his meeting with the parole board seem to be at direct odds with everything that the parole board members are saying.
Yeah, he's getting caught, and he's getting caught on a very serious issue, and his explanation seems to hold no water whatsoever and have no corroborating evidence at all. This is maybe the most serious one of these screw-ups that we're going to talk about, because the Wayne DeMond case is a deadly serious case. Huckabee's case for himself on this one is not cogent in the least, and there's so many other people who are cogent characters and believable characters who are saying just the opposite of the case he's making.
All right.
Hey, you know what I've noticed about Huckabee, Dad, is when he really starts fibbing, those eyebrows shoot way up and almost fly off his face. I think that's how we can tell.
All right. This one could be considered breaking news tonight. Mitt Romney has been talking about watching his dad march with Martin Luther King.
But you can see what I believed and what my family believed by looking at our lives. My dad marched with Martin Luther King.
The problem, his father may never have marched with King. That's still being investigated and determined. And he certainly didn't watch it, as he said in another interview. Now, his spokesman says he was speaking figuratively, not literally. I mean, Craig, this is almost the most absurd of the spokesperson trying to cover it up after the... I wouldn't say anything rather than say that he was speaking figuratively rather than literally about watching his dad march with Martin Luther King.
Yeah, I don't know how you march down the street figuratively. I mean, that was a very literal, and I've heard him say that before on the campaign trail when racial issues are discussed. He must have believed that, and that's often the problem with all of us in real life, and politicians too, is sometimes we start to believe things that we think are true, but not everybody has 10,000 reporters out there scrutinizing everything they say.
And speaking of that, Romney had another episode with regard to the NRA where he said that he had been endorsed by the NRA when he was running for governor.
Maybe he meant it was a figurative endorsement. They loved the idea of me. They just didn't see fit to endorse.
And his whole hunting background seems to be at issue here. He's talking about himself being a big hunter. Then he says, well, you know what? I've only been hunting a couple times, and it's for like little rodents and rabbits and stuff.
Small varmint, says the CEO of Bain Capital. I've been a small varmint hunter is what I mean to say.
That sounds to me like someone who's killing mice in their home.
Yes, that's exactly right. He's turning into the head of the Catch Me If You Can candidate. Like, pretty soon we're going to find out that he's also been an astronaut, except I didn't really mean that. Or he's also, cured polio. He's making stuff up serially, and his responses when he's caught on it are laughable. And that's the thing that he's going to have to get over, because Mitt Romney has a tendency to seem like a little bit of a joke and a lightweight. Getting caught out and then making it worse in the way that you damage control hurts that.